thing in memorial of this particular time, because Krishna, they're taking Krishna back to Vrindavan from Dwarka. Jagannath Puri temple is like Dwarka, he's the king, and he goes to the Gundicha, which is Vrindavan. So I apologize to anyone on Facebook to see the weird lighting, because we're in Nigeria, and the electric company has been quite erratic lately in honor of my arrival. They told me while I was gone it was very good as soon as I got back. Today it went off and on in the last 2 hours about 10 times. It comes on for a few minutes. So at least you have battery and the one light and the iPad, but I can't get things exactly right. But I'll try to speak loudly. So this is chapter 84, actually. As soon as they saw the sages approaching, the kings and other gentlemen who had been seated immediately stood up, including the Pandava brothers and Krishna and Balaram. They all bowed down to the sages who are honored throughout the universe. Now here comes electricity. Is that from the generator or from... Okay. Most of you don't know what it's like to not have electricity. The people in the rest of the world, except India. India is pretty good now. So it keeps us aware that there's God. Lord Krishna, Lord Balaram, and the other kings and leaders properly worship the sages by offering them words of greeting, sitting places, water for washing their feet, drinking water, flower garlands, incense, and sandalwood paste. That's Vedic culture. Even the kings and the sages come, you jump up, bow down, and give it. And probably they could hear me better. Then you put that right in my face. The people are watching, all they see is the backside of the microphone. There's other ways to do it. These things never work right. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. If this was lower, then this morning we got it on up high. After the sages were comfortably seated, the Supreme Lord, whose body protects religious principles, addressed them in the midst of the great assembly. Everyone listened with rapt attention. Despite the great privileges the demigods enjoy as administrators of the universe, they rarely see such sages as Narada and Vyasadeva. How much rarer, then, must it be for earthly kings and cowherd people to see them? Here Lord Krishna, identifying himself with all the kings and others who had assembled at Samantapanchak, speaks on their behalf. Samantapanchak is 5 lakes. Originally was the blood from the Kshatriyas. Parashuram was killing all the Kshatriyas. But, if you leave blood long enough, it settles to the bottom and you have water, because it's mostly water. So now it's water. How is it that the people who are not very austere and who recognize God only in his deity form in the temple can now see you, touch you, inquire from you, bow down to you, worship your feet, and serve you in so many other ways? Mere bodies of water are not real sacred places of pilgrimage, nor are mere images of earth and stone the true worshipable deities. These purify one only after a long time, but saintly kings purify one, saintly sages purify one immediately upon being seen. That we hear again and again that That's what Parikshit said to, or Yudhishthira said to Vidura when he came home. And I thought about that, like devotees, if devotees are going out and we have tilak and we carry books, then it's like that. We're not anything special, but we're representing Krishna then, and people remember Krishna when they see it. If you hide your identity, then you're not helping anybody. I just saw a little thing I heard before also. I heard it different ways. Two donkeys were talking, and one donkey said, "Yesterday I was carrying Jesus into the city, and everybody was putting their cloth down and bowing down, and so I could walk nicely." The other donkey said, "See, you're nothing without Jesus." The other way I heard it was that the murti maker, he finished the murti of Krishna, so he was carrying on a donkey, and he went through the city, and everybody's bowing down and throwing flowers. So the donkey thought, they're all recognizing what a nice donkey is. But then when he came back, everybody just bumped him out of the way, you know. So he didn't understand. I heard that story first from Sachinandan Swami. After the Kirtan Mela, I said, "You were there all the time, you know." And literally, he didn't leave 12 hours a day. He might have gone out to eat. He did go out to eat, but mostly he was there. He said, "Yeah, I'm like that donkey who was carrying Jesus and everybody." So the donkey thought I'm very special. But it's the holy name that's special, it's the book that's special. So we have to be careful. People, you know, they might glorify you if you preach nicely. Might get famous, might get rich. You have to watch out. To remember that it's only because of Krishna. Purport. Because the personality of Godhead is absolute, the Supreme Spirit, any representation of Him, whether manifested in stone, paint, sound, or any other authorized medium, is not different from the original form in the topmost spiritual planet, Goloka, Vrindavan. But ordinary demigods are not absolute, being infinitesimal spirit souls, and thus representations of the demigods are not identical with them. Worship of the demigods, or ritual bathing in a sanctified place, gives only limited benefit to those who lack transcendental faith in the Supreme Lord. On the other hand, great Vaishnava saints like Vyasadeva, Narada, and other four Kumaras are always absorbed in Krishna consciousness, and thus they are veritable moving tirthas, places of pilgrimage. Even a moment's association with them, especially by hearing that glorification of the Lord, can deliver one from all material entanglement. As King Yudhishthira said to Vidura, Bhavat Vida Bhagavatet Tirtha Bhuta Swayam Vibho Tirtha Kurvanti Tirtani Swantakstena Gadabrita. My Lord, devotees like your good self are veritable holy places, personified, because you carry the personality of Godhead within your heart. You turn all places into places of pilgrimage. So you say with Jayapataka Maharaj, he comes, it's like Mayapur comes. You experience Mayapur anywhere. But any devotee, if they're preaching, then they make the place, if there's kirtan, the place becomes a sacred place. So when we go to the holy place, it's not just to be there, that's also very beneficial. But in this Kali Yuga, the power of many holy places is going down, except Mayapur is going up. That's because so many devotees come there and there's so much kirtan there. So it's getting more powerful. And because from there emanates this whole Sankirtan movement and all this energy. And Lord Chaitanya is the avatar for it. But if we go to Mayapur and just take selfies or something, here I am in Mayapur, but if people only see you, right? They don't see Mayapur. Then the benefit is much less. But if we go to class, if we go to kirtan, if we bathe in the Ganga and pray for mercy and remember Lord Chaitanya sporting in the Ganga, then there's so much benefit. We cannot imagine. You know, but people go there for the wrong reason. They don't get so much benefit. Girls go there just looking for boys. Still they get some benefit. Neither the demigods controlling fire, the sun, the moon, the stars, nor those in charge of earth, water, ether, fire, speech, mind, actually remove the sins of their worshippers, who continue to see in terms of dualities. But wise sages destroy one's sins when respectfully served, even for a few moments. Purport. An immature devotee of the Supreme Lord may accept only the deity of the Lord as divine and see everything else as material, even the Lord's confidential servants. Nonetheless, because he recognizes Vishnu's supreme position, a devotee is better situated than materialistic worshippers of the demigods, and he deserves respect. Association with advanced sages, either directly or by hearing their instructions, is recommended in this verse for one who wishes to advance beyond the lowest stage of devotional service. A neophyte devotee may be free from the more obvious sins of violence against innocent creatures and against his own body and mind, but until he becomes very advanced on the devotional path, he must always contend with the subtler contamination of false pride, disrespect toward respectable Vaishnavas, and lack of compassion for suffering creatures. The best remedy for these symptoms of immaturity is to hear from and honor pure Vaishnavas and to assist them in working to deliver the fallen, conditioned souls. False pride, disrespecting respectable Vaishnavas, and not being compassionate for suffering people. That's why Lord Chaitanya has kindly given us the Sankirtan movement. And if we get out and preach, then we automatically understand a little bit better that the non-devotee people are suffering. Otherwise, we may sit in and think, you know, I'm suffering. Oh, I'm suffering so much, and it's so hard. I didn't get enough prasadam, but then we go out, we realize we're very blissful, and we see the people are suffering, but we make them happy. Even now, at least at the airport, many people know us and become happy to see devotees. They know there's something good. You know, they don't quite understand, but if we just keep associating, we keep giving them books, and we just be compassionate, take pity, you know, like volunteer doctors and volunteer, you know, people, they help other people without charging them. And when you die, you'll be known for how much you gave, not for how much you had at the time of death. Nobody will care. The rich man, even the Bhagavatam, it says like that, you know, he's surrounded by his family and he's still thinking, oh, I have to do more work, I can't die, my poor sons, and the sons are already, sometimes they're pulling out the plug, you know. and they're fighting over the property before he dies. And praying, please let him die, you know, come on. That's not, it's true.
It's true.
I don't know in Africa if that happens.
Very much.
In India now, it's speaking, and I read a few years ago, they said like Africa and India were some of the last places where they still respect old people. But we went to one place, they didn't live there, but it was a gathering place for old people, and they asked us, why do the young people don't take care of the old people anymore? And that was a long time ago. That was somewhere in, I don't know, in Nigeria. India, I've heard stories. You know, the father is being kind, so he wants to give his house to his son when he dies. But if the son inherits the house, he has to pay a big tax. So he'll sell the house to the son for a very low price, you know, and officially transfer the ownership before he dies. Then the son kicks him out. What are you doing in my house? I have the papers, and the guy can't do anything. It's happened. It's not uncommon. It's Kali Yuga. So we want to be compassionate and respectful. And we see many sons also, they very care about their parents, they try to take care of them. Young devotees want to take care of the old devotees. Should be. Yasyatma, this is a very famous verse. Yasyatma buddhi kunipe chudatuke swadi kalitadishu boma ijadi yatirta buddhi salilena kadichich janeshu abhyageshu saeva gokara. Anybody know that one? You know? One who identifies his self as the inert body composed of mucus, bile, and air, selfie, who assumes his wife and family are permanently his own, who thinks an earthen image or the land of his birth is worshipful, or who sees a place of pilgrimage as merely water there, and who never identifies himself with, feels kinship with, worships, or even visits those who are wise in spiritual truth. Such a person is no better than a cow or an ass. Saeva Gokara. As a cow, actually they're very clever in many ways, but they say that sometimes a calf dies very young. So the farmer will bring the dead calf, and the mother will lick and give milk. And she doesn't know it's dead. But people do that too. The dead family member, they hug them and cry and want them to come back. It's a famous verse we hear. It's one of the most quoted verses. Who thinks the land of his birth is worshipable, or goes to the holy place just to take a bath, and thinks that's all there is to it, but he doesn't stop for the Bhagavatam class and give a donation to the sages, and he doesn't get much benefit. Just like the cow or the buffaloes go in the Ganga, and they sit there all day. Right? The intelligence is shown by one's freedom from false identification with the self, of the self, as stated in the Brihaspati Samhita. Agyata Bhagavad Dharma, Mantra Vijnana Sangveda, Naraste Go Kara Geya, Api Bhupara Vanditaha. Men who do not know the principles of devotional service to the Supreme Lord should be known as cows and asses, even if they are expert in technically analyzing Vedic mantras and are adored by world leaders. An imperfect Vaishnava advancing toward the second-class platform identifies himself with the sages who have established a true spiritual path, even while he still may have some inferior material attachments to body, family, and so on. Such a devotee of the Lord is not a foolish cow or stubborn ass like the majority of materialists, but most excellent is the Vaishnava who has gained the special mercy of the Lord and broken free from the bondage of illusory attachment completely. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti, the words Boma Ijadi, who thinks an image made of earth is worshipable, refer not to the deity of the Supreme Lord in his temple, but to the deities of demigods. And the words Yat Tirtha Buddhi Salile, who sees a place of pilgrimage as merely the water there, refer not to sacred rivers like the Ganges, but to lesser rivers. Because there's many sacred rivers. Sukuvacha. Hearing such unfathomable words from the unlimitedly wise Lord Krishna, the learned Brahmanas remain silent, their minds bewildered. Purport. Srila Sridhar Swami explains, for some time the sages pondered the Supreme Lord's behavior, which resembled that of a subordinate living entity. They concluded that he was acting this way to instruct the people in general. Thus they smiled and spoke to him, the spiritual master of the universe. Purport. Sridhar Swami explains the word Ishitavat Yatta as referring to one's not being a controller, or in other words, to being under the law of karma, obliged to work and experience the results of one's work, while addressing the sages. Lord Krishna accepted the role of a subordinate living being to emphasize the importance of hearing and serving saintly Vaishnavas. The personality of Godhead, also the supreme teacher of spiritual surrender. Purport. The great sage said, "Your power of illusion and totally bewildered us, the most exalted knowers of the truth and leaders among the universal creators. How amazing is the behavior of the Supreme Lord. He covers himself with his human-like activities and pretends to be the subject to superior control." Purport. The sages have characterized the Lord's statements as inscrutable. Duran Vayam. How is it so stated here? His words and activities bewilder even the most learned when he plays as subordinating himself to his own servants. Who knows what unscrutable means? Inscrutable. Anybody?
You can research.
Huh?
Something that can only be researched.
Impossible to understand, yeah.
Yeah.
Or interpret. Comes from Middle English, that's why you. So scrutable means you can't understand.
You can't understand.
You've never heard that word. Anybody ever heard scrutable?
Scrutable means you can't understand.
Anybody read it in the newspaper? I don't think so. It's an old word.
Very.
But somehow they translate it. Indeed, the human-like pastimes of the Almighty are simply a pretense. Effortlessly, He alone sends forth from His self this variegated creation, maintains it, and then swallows it up again, all without becoming entangled, just as the element earth takes on many names and forms in its various transformations. Purport. The One Supreme expands Himself in many without diminishing His completeness. He does this effortlessly without depending on anyone or anything. The mystic process of the Lord's self-expansion is incomprehensible to all but Himself. But the example of the substance earth in its manifold products bears enough resemblance to provide some idea. The same example is also presented in an often stated passage of the Chandogya Upanishad. Earth's transformations are merely verbal creations of the process of naming. The substance earth itself is alone real. Srila Sridhar Swami suggests that this verse of Srimad Bhagavatam answers a possible objection on the part of Lord Krishna. How can I create, maintain, and destroy the universe if I am Vasudev's son? The answer is given by the words Vibimnas, Charitam Vidambanam. You are the perfectly complete whole, and your birth and pastimes are only imitation of ordinary persons' activities in the material world. You simply pretend to be under higher control. What's the verse that explains that? Upanishad? Who knows? Om Purnamada
Purnamidam Purna Udashate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamavasisyate.
What does that mean?
The Supreme Lord is perfect and complete, and all emanations coming from Him are perfect and complete.
And even though so many complete units emanate from, He remains complete. The Mayavadis say it's like you get the cake. So you have a whole cake, but when you cut it up and give it out, then there's no more whole cake, there's only pieces. But Krishna is not like that. He gets more and more complete the more he emanates. At suitable times you assume the pure mode of goodness to protect your devotees and punish the wicked. Thus you, the soul of the Varnashram social order, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, maintain the eternal path of the Vedas by enjoying your pleasure pastimes. Purport: this verse describes the Lord's enlightening people in general, jana sangraha, and his imitation of worldly behavior. Because the personality of Godhead remains always perfect, the body he manifests when he comes to this world is not touched by material goodness. Rather, it is a manifestation of pure goodness known as Vishuddha Sattva, the same spiritual substance that constitutes his original form. That's the spiritual world. There's only goodness. Here, there's never pure goodness. It's always mixed. Every mode is always mixed. The Vedas are your spotless heart, and through them one can perceive by means of austerity, study, and self-control the manifest, the unmanifest, and the pure existence transcendental to both. The manifest consists of visible things in this world, and avyakta consists of the subtle underlying cause of cosmic creation. The Vedas point toward the transcendental realm of Brahman, which lies beyond all material cause and effect. Bhakti, Bhakti, Sanatana. Manifested and unmanifested. Krishna comes and goes. The material universe is manifested and unmanifested again and again. But Krishna is always there. Before there was anything else, even Brahma and Shiva, there was Krishna. And while they exist, there's Krishna. And after everything is again annihilated, Krishna is still there. He's still there. The spiritual world doesn't change. So we want to go there and don't change it. In the material world, everything's changing. Therefore, O Supreme Brahman, you honor the members of the Brahminical community, for they are the perfect agents by which one can realize you through the evidence of the Vedas. For that very reason, you are the foremost worshipper of the Brahmanas. What's that verse? Namo Brahmanya Hitaya Cha Jagaditaya Krishnaya Hitaya Namo. He's honoring the Brahmanas and the cows. He's the Lord of the Brahmins. They worship Krishna, but he worships them. When Sudama Brahman came, then Krishna washed his feet, set him on his own bed, Rukmini's bed, and washed his feet, offered arti. Rukmini was fanning him with chamara. I was reading that, and it says she was very slow, long strokes of the chamara. And we usually, although sometimes it's, one time Shruti Kirti was fanning Prabhupada and he was just waving it all over the place. And Prabhupada said, no. He said, it's for, you're supposed to, because it's to get the flies away from the face. Do it right. Today, our birth, education, austerity, and vision have all become perfect because we've been able to associate with you, the goal of all saintly persons. Indeed, you yourself are the ultimate supreme blessing. They're addressing Krishna. They recognize. The sages here contrast their respect for Lord with his reciprocal worship of them. Lord Krishna honors Brahmins as a means of instructing less intelligent men, whereas he is in fact absolutely independent. The Brahmanas who worship him, on the other hand, benefit themselves more than they can imagine. Namastasmai Bhagavate Krishnaya Kuntamedase Swayogamaya Chana Mahimne Paramatmane. Let us offer respectful obeisance to Supreme Lord Krishna, that infinitely intelligent supersoul who has disguised his greatness through his mystic yoga maya. Report. Apart from any future profit to be obtained from worshiping the Supreme Lord, it is every person's most essential obligation to bow down to him as an acknowledgement of one's dependence and servitude the Lord Krishna recommends. Manmana Bhavamad Bhakto. Again. Yuktaivam Atmanam Atparayana. It's actually twice in the Bhagavad Gita, so it must be very important. There's a few places where the one line is twice. This one, the whole thing, except slightly different words from chapter 9 to 18 on the second part, but the exact same meaning. And Prabhupada said, it's all you need to do is 4 things. These 4 things. Think of Krishna. Manmana. How do you think of Krishna though? You gotta think of Krishna. To read the book about Krishna, remember slokas about Krishna, serve the deity of Krishna, chant the holy name of Krishna. And whatever we're doing, remember this is for Krishna. This is Krishna's temple we're cleaning. This is Krishna's car we're driving. We're cooking for Krishna and he's going to eat it. So, and then become my devotee. And that's twice in the Bhagavad Gita, and of course so many times it talks about bhakti, but directly saying become my devotee. So that actually by just knowing that proves the efficacy that Prabhupada's Gita is as it is. Because previously people read Bhagavad Gita, well not so many people, but in India many people read it. But they never thought to become a devotee of Krishna. The Mayavadis, they present Bhagavad Gita, they just leave Krishna out completely. It's not Krishna, he's not really Krishna talking, or he's saying this, but he didn't mean, they're just crazy. And Prabhupada, by reading Prabhupada's book, millions of people become devotees. And more they're becoming. and then bow down to me. Madhyaji, worship me, and bow down. That's not very hard to do, those 4 things. Right? But worshiping is not just 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me see, how many is it supposed to be? Right? That's not exactly right. It's supposed to be like when I joined up, we would hear there was a Madhyaji Shilavati, and Prabhupada had taught her deity worship. Mostly he taught her and Jamuna and then also Janani Vasa, right? Mostly ladies. And devotees are saying Prabhupada said she has a rasa with the deity. I heard so much about her. Even we went to LA, and in the Sundar Arti, she and Vishujan were leading together like a duet, Vishujan Swami. She was quite respected. And somebody said, they got Brahman and they were going to do Artik, and they said, what should I do? She said, just offer to Krishna. Just offer it to Krishna. What am I supposed to do? Just offer to Krishna. Please take it, please take it. You know that story? From Lord Chaitanya. Forget the name. It's a young boy. His father was a Brahmana. Not exactly a devotee, but he was worshipping the deity. And he had to go somewhere. And he told the boy, you make the noontime offering. So the boy did. He'd been watching, so he took the plate, he put it on the altar, and he rang the bell and everything. And then he went back after, but he found everything was still there. So he thought, oh, I did something wrong, he didn't eat. So he, please eat it, please eat it, please eat it. And he went out and he was praying like anything. Then he came back an empty plate. So he was very happy, cleaned up everything. And his father came home and said, did you make he said, yeah, I offered. He said, well, bring the prasad. He said, no, there's nothing left. And the father was bewildered. But he was thinking, this boy is not a rascal, he's a good boy. So a few weeks later, he again said, I have to go. But he was hiding to see what happened. So he saw the boy, please eat it, please eat it, please eat it. He saw the deity start to eat, then the father looked around the corner. Krishna stopped. So Lord Chaitanya glorified that boy, and he told the father, who is the father? The father said, the son is the father, because he taught me. And then Lord Chaitanya told that father, I think was the doctor, he told him, you practice. Told the son, you just stay and worship the deity. And give different assignments. But that's the main thing, please accept it, Krishna, Not that we just have a recipe and we follow exactly and, we're wondering whatever. But this is for Krishna, and just please, please, Krishna. And then Krishna will accept no matter what you offer. Really, and the same thing when we're chanting, it should be like if someone's leading a kirtan, it should be like a service to Krishna and also to the devotees, that he wants everyone else to chant. That he wants to chant in such a way that all the other devotees chant. And make it very simple. Interesting, yesterday I was watching from Japan, and there's one devotee named Havi. Anybody heard of him? Yeah. Havi was a very, very famous singer in his country, Venezuela. Very famous. And then he became a devotee. But he kept doing his music. And then he told it, he made an announcement. He said, I'm going to retire now. And the fans were flipping out. No, 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 please don't retire. He said, well, I'm only going to sing about Krishna. They said, all right, just Don't quit. He was that popular. But he doesn't do it so much, but he just made an incredible recording and traveled the whole world with big concerts. And so they had a radio show, and then it was some kirtan. And I heard him when he was there before. He plays the piano. Unbelievable the way he plays it. I might have, when I used to listen to jazz, seen a few like Thelonious Monk or somebody, but just mystical music. And he was leading kirtan, and he just sang Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. It was the most simple melody. And he sang two different ones. He speeded up and changed it a little bit. And always like that. When he led the kirtan in Tokyo, he said one mridanga, one kartal, And he just played the harmonium and just sing one melody for hours. And everybody goes wild. Everybody. But he's like, world famous musician. But he doesn't care to promote himself as a musician. He's already had that taste. He wants to serve Krishna. He wants everyone to join the kirtan. He doesn't want to confuse people with a new melody every couple minutes. Everybody's just trying to catch the notes, and can I sing this high, No, he just wants everyone to chant. So that, like, whatever we're doing is a service. Cooking, Krishna, please accept this. I want the devotees to be happy, when we're cleaning the temple, whatever we do. Then we'll be very successful. When we're preaching, we want those people to serve Krishna. Then they'll be very happy. We're trying to engage them. Even if it's just to accept a gift, to take this book. Because sometimes even give a free book. Here, it's not so hard to give a free book. In some countries, they won't take. They're too suspicious, Why are you giving free? Why do you give free food? I said, what do you want? What do they put in it? Watch out for those Hare Krishnas, They put something in the food. It's true. And one of the devotees in Bali, she's a dentist, and they want her to be a teacher in the university. And they said, if she's a teacher, everyone's going to become a Hare Krishna. But they let her teach. And a lot of them did become Hare Krishna. Neither these kings nor even the Vrishnis who enjoy your intimate association know you as the soul of all existence, the force of time, and the supreme controller. For them you are covered by the curtain of Maya. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that Lord Krishna's family, the Vrishnis, were too familiar with him to realize that he's the super soul residing in the heart of every created being. And these kings at Kurukshetra, who were not devotees of Krishna, could not recognize him at that time, the annihilator of everything. Devotees and non-devotees are both covered by Maya, but in different ways. For the materialistic, Maya is illusion. For the Vaishnavas, she is known as Yoga Maya.